Those Space People, a podcast series of casual cosmic conversations with people working on exciting space projects. Today we have Juan Peña. He is the CEO of Orbital EOS, a Spanish company that develops maritime solutions using satellite data and artificial intelligence. Juan has a background in oceanography and remote sensing, and he's currently based in Valencia, Spain. Hello, Juan. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Ratana. Good morning. Pleased to be here.
Juan, you've spent more than a decade at the Spanish Maritime Safety and Rescue Agency. So can you talk about your work there and what led you to create Orbital EOS?
Yeah, so thank you very much for the question. Yeah, I started to work with the Spanish Coast Guard, or European Maritime Safety Agency, which is the long word for the entity, in 2008. And they were looking for a very specific role. They had bought three aircraft, very big aircraft for maritime patrol. This was after some years after the Prestige accident in Spain, which caused one of the worst environmental disasters in Spain history, a major oil spillage in the coast of Spain. So I guess that the government reflected about the problem, about the issue, and the level of preparation of the country for a disaster like this. And they found out that many other countries in Europe had already some aerial assets in order to detect and characterize oil pollution at sea using airborne remote sensing. So they bought, they made a huge investment in this technology, and they bought three aircraft equipped with remote sensing equipment in order to detect and characterize oil pollution at sea. And there was another role, which was search and rescue operations. Actually, for me, it was just a coincidence. I was looking for a job at the time, and I think I fit in the kind of profile they were looking for, because I had some background in maritime science and oceanography. But at the same time, I had been working for the airport in Alicante, and I prepared for air traffic control as well. Oceans and air, were connected in my curricula. That was a bit strange, but it was perfect for them. So the role that they were looking for is console operator. The long name is tactical coordination officer. And basically, it's the people on board the aircraft who manage all the sensors and have to take care of the mission rather than piloting the aircraft.
And what led you to create Orbital EOS after that?
Yeah, so it's a very good question. So we were involved in this, very interesting, rewarding, but demanding as well job. Try to save lives at sea and trying to take care of the ocean. So there was a moment after 12 years being involved in that mission that we kind of thought, okay, this is very cool. This aircraft is amazing, but not every country can afford this, first of all. And we have a limited reach, right? Even for Spain or for Europe, because an aircraft is, operated by people, and unfortunately, people has to rest. We have to sleep, and aerial regulations are very strict there. And at the same time, even if you work very hard and you follow the regulations on a global scale, you cannot afford to monitor the oceans 24 hours a day. But unfortunately, the threats are there 24 hours a day. So in terms of oil pollution. So for instance, we have to gather information about ships, producing oil pollution deliberately. So they discharge oil at sea rather than declaring in at port and properly disposing this waste. So for them, it's just behavior to save money. And the first years when we started this operation, it was incredible the amount of pollution that we found in Spanish oceans. So after some time working for the Coast Guard, there was a deterrent effect, what they call. So ships started to be aware of the surveillance. So they started to behave in a more responsible way. But if you think about this problem, in terms of, okay, let's look at it on a global scale. It's a global issue. Ocean pollution is a global issue. So what is happening in Indonesia? What is happening in New Zealand? What is happening in South America? So there are around 95,000 ships in the world currently, which basically are responsible for the world trade. So they're global assets for us, but at the same time, it's a threat for the ocean if there are behaviors that produce pollution. So we joined a master program in remote sensing in the University of Valencia in order to try to find out the solution for this. We had been involved in operational remote sensing, but we decided, a colleague and me, we decided, okay, let's come back to university. We haven't been in the university for a long time, so why not, coming back as adults to the university, let's catch up with the new science. And it was a very, very good decision to make, because that was the moment in which the remote sensing and the artificial intelligence were overlapping. And I'm very proud to say that every single line of code or every knowledge that we got from that master, it's applied today in our company. So I remember laughing a lot with some colleagues and some teachers explaining to us, look, if you learn this properly, maybe in the future, you can apply this in order to solve a problem in the world. And I replying to say, no, I'm going to apply this afternoon. Yeah, so that's more or less the story. Actually, we're a young company. We started in June 2019. As a startup, everything moves very, very fast. So quite proud of what we have achieved so far.
That's very interesting. And it's definitely very exciting to go back to university after spending some time as a professional, in the real world.
Absolutely.
Definitely. So Orbital EOS focuses on maritime applications. So can you tell us about the different kinds of applications that you focus on?
Yeah, sure. Of course, you can define your strategy as a startup in many different ways. For us, I think instead of trying to be a solution in search of a problem, we tried the opposite. Okay, we had a very deep knowledge about the problem. So let's find out, what is the best solution for this? And we found out that solution in the university. So, okay, we have been doing this with aircraft for a long time, but we know the constraints. First of all, the cost is very high. Secondly, there are frontiers in the air. So, the air regulations, for instance, we found some oil spills in the ocean that were in the middle of two countries. And so we couldn't report them, we couldn't enter the airspace of another country like, I don't know, Morocco or Algeria. That was an issue for us. In geographical terms, the area of ocean that you can monitor, it's big, but it's limited. There's a limitation to, in terms of fuel, in terms of the aircraft that you use and so on. So for us, it was like a revelation. Okay, let's use satellites, let's fly higher. It's a straightforward solution. You can reach any point of the globe as far as there is a satellite overpassing that place. So we decided to design a solution which is called EOS Viewer, and it is a digital platform that provides global oil pollution intelligence, and it's powered by AI, deep learning. So this is the main, let's say, solution that we have designed so far. We work on some other fields like ship detection as well, and things related to environmental challenges, but not pollution in the maritime domain, like coastal erosion, for instance. We did a very interesting pilot with a company here in Spain in order to understand how the coastline of Spain evolves, due to coastal erosion. This is a huge problem, as you know very well, because of global warming. So in the past year, the last year, we had a huge storm here in the Mediterranean. So the consequences were that we lost a lot of sand, and that was even compromising the touristic season for some areas of the coastline, especially in Spain, that we are a very touristic country. So, Northern Europe spends the summer here. This would be more or less the summary. Of course, as you know, Earth observation market is an emerging market. So there are a lot of opportunities out there. There are a lot of golden fish out there, but we're trying to focus on leveraging our operational experience. So ship detection is a nice one as well to fight against illegal fishing and or smuggling or whatever. And coastal erosion is another application that we're proud of.
And where do you get your raw satellite imagery from? Which all satellites do you get this from?
We work a lot with Copernicus data, so European Space Agency. Last year, we were awarded by ESA in their ESA startup competition with Constellar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yes. That helped us to make a very direct connection with ESA, and it's going very, very well. But, as any other startup in the domain, we use a lot Sentinel-1 and Sentinel-2. And when we need more revisit, more imagery, then we go to a private market.
So as someone from the upstream, as someone who's working in the upstream, I'm always curious if there are enough satellites or not. So is the satellite imagery, is the archived satellite imagery often sufficient for you, or how often do you end up commissioning new satellite data?
That is a very interesting question, and it's something that we are trying to validate with the market demand. I remember last year speaking to a potential customer telling me, can you provide me 1 image per day in 1 hour? 1 hour of latency after. But, we have to tell them what is possible and what is not. But last year was impossible for us to reach that. But this year it's possible. It's totally possible. It's not going to be cheap, but it's possible, It depends a lot on the use case. It depends a lot on the requirements of the potential user. Especially the maritime domain, the applications tend to be very demanding in terms of timeliness. So if you provide the information fast, okay, you provide a lot of value. But if you provide the information in 12 hours, there's nothing they can do with that information because this is the past, right?
Yeah.
And
yes.
Unfortunately, the ocean is a very dynamic environment. It's very dynamic. So things change very fast. If you're trying to search for a ship or if you're trying to follow an oil spill. So this is a challenge that we have in our market, and we are working very hard with private satellite operators in order to meet that demands.
That's good to know. So there's going to be much more satellites to be made. So I'm glad being in the upstream domain.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are data hungry. We always celebrate when there's a new launch or there's a new company trying to get into this market and trying to launch satellites, even they're very, small satellites. I think it's good news for everyone, because it's democratization of space, more data for everyone. And for us, it's the base for us to build a business case. If there's no data, then we can do nothing. We are at the end of the supply chain. So I remember 6 months ago saying a customer, I'm sorry, we cannot help you. There's no revisits enough to meet your needs, or the latency, we cannot provide the information that fast, or the spectral resolution that you need is not in space yet.
There's always a lot of activity in the upstream, so I'm sure you'll get a decent number of satellites and satellite imagery. Speaking of democratization of data, in remote sensing applications, right, there are currently a lot of developer platforms. For instance, there is this Open EO platform by ESA, and there's also the Google Earth Engine. Mm-hmm. And also there are some companies that provide toolboxes for building custom applications. So do you see a future where this becomes mainstream, or some sort of an app store or a Google Play Store kind of an ecosystem emerging? Yeah,
that is a very good question as well. So as you know, there are different opinions about this. So is this marketplace thing going to succeed in the future or not? I don't know, really. Honestly, I don't know. What I can say, and I suggest with some voices out there in the market, I totally agree on the idea that we have to provide value. And the value comes from understanding what the customer needs. Of course, there's a need there in making the access to data easy and affordable and scalable. There is a pain there, but it's not the pain of the end user. The end user doesn't know anything about a satellite. So, it's like AI. For me, it's like AI. When we can use a tool that is powered by AI, but we don't know or we don't care, then we can say it's democratized. It's a commodity. Even it's very powerful. For instance, with satellite data, we should reach a point in where you don't have to explain how you do things. If you're using IoT or satellite, the user doesn't care. If you're solving their problem, then it's okay for them. So I definitely see a room for this kind of platforms, but I don't know if there's room for so many. I think from my own perspective, I might be wrong, but from my own perspective, there is a need for a lot of people with domain expertise and trying to find out and going very deep into the use cases and remote sensing and analytic capabilities and AI, and how can we solve this problem? Okay, maybe at first we find the analytics and we find the process to solve this problem. Maybe at first it's not very scalable or okay, but we can solve this later on. First of all, let's try to find the answer to this question that the customer is putting on the table.
So you do have a lot of domain expertise, and that definitely gives you an edge over a generic Earth observation applications company, right? But however, do you still face any problems in acquiring customers, any challenges in presenting your business case?
Yes, we do. Like any startup, we do. So for instance, I come from the governmental institution, let's say, so from a public entity. For instance, Spain, I could say I know very well how things work in that domain. But for instance, one of our main commercial targets is the oil industry as well. So they are potential polluters and they want to take care about these things. So first of all, it's an environmental threat for them as well. Then it's something about responsibility. And third one, and this is something that many people forget, if you are losing oil in the ocean, it's not only environmental, you're losing the product that you're trying to sell to the people, right? So you're losing money as well. But we are not that familiar with that market. We have to learn from them. So although we may have a lot of operational experience and domain expertise on, about remote sensing, we have to learn what is the pain for them. And we have to learn, why should I pay for this solution? We have to answer that question. So yeah, we have to work very hard as well to try to understand very well what is in their minds and if the value proposition we are doing is correct.
Okay. What scope is there for further innovation in the maritime domain from an Earth observation perspective?
Wow, huge. Yeah, thank you for the question. So one of our visions is that, in phase 3, we're currently, I would say, in phase 2, so trying to combine AI and remote sensing in the maritime domain. The phase 3 would be put AI in orbit. As you know, it's a very trendy scientific field now. So FISAT-1 was launched last year, which is the first civil experimental satellite with AI in orbit. It's a place where we want to be. It's a place where we want to be because for us, it's so clear that the future is there, so clear. So that for me is, a very clear path in advantaging the applications. As I said, latency is an issue, timeliness is an issue in the maritime domain. You have to be very fast. Okay, for instance, one of our dreams, I don't know, in 5 years' time or 3 years' time, is to use satellites for search and rescue operations, for instance. So nowadays, it's not possible because, you task the satellite, then the satellite is going to take an image over that place, I don't know, maybe in 8 hours or maybe in 5, we don't know. We have no control over that. And then satellite image has to be downlinked in a ground station, maybe in Antarctica. So it's a very complex supply chain. But if we have the AI detecting a ship in the satellite, then we have to send, the information that we have to send to the ground station is very light. It's not 1 gigabyte, it's kilobytes of information, but it's very valuable information. So this is where we want to be, definitely, AI in orbit.
Wow, that's very interesting. Really looking forward. I mean, anything that adds more intelligence to the satellite platform is quite exciting.
Sure.
What skill set is required to enter the space of maritime applications using Earth observation imagery, both as a professional and also as an entrepreneur?
Well, I don't know if I'm the right person to answer this.
How important, or maybe shall I rephrase it? How important is domain knowledge to enter this, to work in this space? So what skill set is needed for someone to work here?
For us has been proven to be crucial. For us, you can do a lot of things without domain expertise, but it's going to take you a longer time to understand what people are expecting from you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, on the technical side, there are a lot of things that you already know. So this is a very, very nice advantage, I would say. But this is the same problem that we have, for instance, if we try to find new business cases working in adjacent markets, like, if you are an Earth observation company, you get people contacting you. Can you do this? Can you do deforestation? Can you do wildfire detection? So it depends on the case. We try to help, and other times we said no, because we don't know how to do that. But I would say it's definitely a crucial advantage to have domain expertise. It's crucial. But having said that, if you refer to the skill sets, so what kind of skill set we for instance, we look forward in our team. I would say that, Earth observation and artificial intelligence are very good marriage. So we, for instance, in our team, we have experts in AI, and we are another group of experts in remote sensing. And then we have a person that speaks both languages,
oh, wow.
Very well, which is crucial as well. Again, from my own perspective, passion is the first skill that you need. The first one. Love what you do. Why do you wake up every morning? Because I love what I do, because this is what I do and this is my job, and I don't imagine myself doing anything else. So having that, you learn anything. This is my point of view.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Juan. Passion, especially in the space industry where everything is a huge challenge, passion is the only thing that drives you forward, and not tear your head or bang your head against the wall.
Yeah.
If space enthusiasts or young professionals want to reach out to you, what's the best way?
Well, my email is very simple. It's juan@orbitaleos.com. We got emails from young graduates on a weekly basis. We're happy to do that. We're not bothered at all. Of course, we cannot hire a lot of people because we're a small company, but our plan is to grow very fast this year. So if that happens, hopefully, then we would need a lot of talented and brave young students.
And from what backgrounds are you expecting young students? From the background of AI, machine learning, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, so AI is definitely a very interesting thing. Remote sensing, it's essential, I would say, as well, because AI, it's perfect, but an AI expert with not knowledge at all in remote sensing, it's very difficult, to go forward. For instance, I think for me, the ideal profile is someone with a master's degree in remote sensing that then has been deepening into the AI world.
Yeah, I mean, AI is the latest buzzword, so I'm sure you'll find a lot of very suitable potential candidates.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a comment, something that we learned in the master's degree is that, okay, AI helps you to retrieve the value from the data, the relevant answers that you're trying to find. But it's very, very important that you understand the physics behind the processes. It's very important, because maybe the solution for this problem is very simple. You just use some remote sensing basic principles and then you solve it. You don't need a deep neural network for that. And unfortunately, we find out a lot of cases, in which people are using very fancy AI where there's no need for that. And there's a lot of effort, and then there's a lot of computing power used, for a problem that can be used with very basic remote sensing knowledge.
That's interesting, especially if one is trying to implement this AI on a satellite platform, then the simpler it is, the better, the more suitable it would be.
Yeah, absolutely.
From the perspective of either power consumption or the complexity or the mass budgets and everything else.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's very great to know that domain knowledge can take away a lot of load from AI and make systems simpler. Great. Juan, thank you very much for a very interesting discussion. Usually maritime applications sounds a little boring, I guess, to space enthusiasts because they're always interested in the rockets and the big fancy things. But this is really interesting. So I'm sure a lot of them will find it very exciting to work in. So thank you very much, Juan, for taking your time out. Thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thank you to you. It's been my pleasure, and it's been a very, very interesting conversation. So thanks a lot for reaching out and making this happen.